tardes, saludos, gracias por estar con nosotros. Welcome, thank you for being here. My name is Juan González. I'm an attorney in Camden, New Jersey, which is about 2 hours away, right across the river from downtown Philadelphia. Welcome, and we have our panelists. We're waiting for one more. She already brought her Coquito, but we're
No,
good.
it was me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see. All right. In our panel, we have Lucila Santana from Springfield, Massachusetts. Their Puerto Rican Day Parade. Yes, Lucila.
Buenas.
And Ingrid Figueroa, Oceola.
Oceola County.
Oceola County, Puerto Rican Parade in Florida. Welcome. And then she is around, but Debbie Quiñones with Coquito Masters. Ergo the Coquito bottle, on the table there.
I swear I was teasing her, and she pulls this bag and pulls the Coquito. I don't know.
There you go.
Can't wait.
There it is. All right, just by way of a little outline, here we go. And we have with us Debbie Quiñones, Coquito Masters. Yay, Debbie. All right. That's right, she'll be serving Coquito. Okay, so the program for this particular workshop, I'll do a little intro, as we're doing right now. Each speaker will have about 3 or 4 minutes in our panel to address the main topic of the session. After the initial remarks, the moderator, I'll ask for some questions, again, to kind of target and flow the discussion. And then we'll have about 15, maybe 20 minutes of question and answers from those who are attending. All right? To wrap up this plenary sessions, when we get back together in the big group, the moderators will take the notes from today, from this afternoon right now, to the most direct points and recommendations made at the session, right? And then the moderators will present 3 of the most important recommendations that we may reach after we have our discussions and our presentations, right? Just by way of beginning, this is my opening remarks, but I always like to start off with just a moment of silence for the betterment of the cause. Gracias. Y como somos boricuas, se habla de todo un poco. So, inglés, español, spanglish, lo que sea. Todos somos familia. Okay? Y que viva Puerto Rico. All right. As I mentioned, I'm from Camden, New Jersey. In Camden, we celebrate la Parada San Juan Bautista, el gran desfile puertorriqueño de Camden, New Jersey, que ahora este año que viene ahora, el 17, celebramos 60 años.
Wow.
60 years of celebrating the Puerto Rican
awesome.
Parade in Camden, New Jersey. Thank you. I know. And actually, my mother, Doña Ramona González, was one of the founders of the parade back before I was even born. And I often joke about it, but I'm sure it's true. I often say that I was probably in the womb involved in the parade activities. And it's probably true. I would venture to say it's probably true. But I'm very proud of the organization and proud to continue that tradition. I brought some newspapers with photos of our parade and festivals. Feel free to take. And also some materials that we had from last year's festival. As always, at the end of June, feel free to take that information. It's at the end of June this year, coming up 2017. It's Sunday, June 25th. Everyone's welcome to come participate in the parade. We have the parade, and then from 12 to 4 o'clock we have the parade, and from 4 to 8 we have the festival, free concert for the public at the Wiggins Waterfront Park, which is downtown Camden, right across the river from downtown Philadelphia. Beautiful backdrop, very pretty, very nice festive afternoon, and it's all free to the public, all right? So everyone's welcome to participate. Just very quickly, just to kind of put the parameters on what we're discussing today, all right? Our discussion is to focus on the celebration of heritage across the country, across this country, and we have representatives across the country year-round, and also how that relates to education, and in particular the schools, and more focus what we do in putting together parades and festivals, how does that impact our future generations? Mm-hmm. And how is that significant for the future generations, right? And I know something that I always say about the parades is, and I know in particular for our parade, the Parada San Juan Bautista in Camden, New Jersey, but I'm sure this applies to all of the parades and festivals across the board, again, across this country, that couple main themes. One, the historical preservation. We, as I always say, we here today, we are that link between the past, the present, and the future. All right, as I mentioned, I'm the proud son of Doña Ramona González, one of the founders of our parade in Camden almost 60 years ago. right? But at the same time, here I'm an organizer now and promoter and doing what I have to do and what I love doing with the parade in Camden. But at the same time, we're passing that on to future generations, passing that on to my daughter, and teaching the significance of, our culture, our language, el idioma, la comida, la música, el baile, la cultura. All right? So we're very important in that sense. And we are that link between the past, the present, and the future. Also, number 2, promoting community unity and solidarity. All right? We've heard in the speakers this morning that's also a grander effect and, if you will, purpose of our parades and festival, that unity. And that translates into political power, economic power, all of that. Okay? And lastly, to celebrate, and also something that was mentioned earlier today, celebrate our pride, our cultural pride. Right? I know it warms my heart in particular when you see on the parade day, everyone's waving a flag, and as we heard this morning, barely 60 years ago, it would have been illegal, a felony in this country or in Puerto Rico to wave this flag. And as I said, it warms my heart to see everyone from the little kids to the great-great-grandparents and beyond proud of who we are, of our family, our culture, and our heritage. And that's a beautiful thing. All right? So with that as a backdrop, I present our speakers, and we'll just, again, each speaker to have 4 or 5 minutes to make your presentation. We'll start off on my far right with, again, Lucila Santana, the Puerto Rican Day Parade in Springfield, Massachusetts. Welcome. Bienvenida.
Thank you. Bienvenidos a todos. Buenos días. I am from Naguabo, Puerto Rico. I have been in the U.S. Now for 11 years in Springfield, Massachusetts. And I'm here with my husband. Amazing husband.
Hey, husband.
So I'm going to be speaking about our issue to schools. I particularly work in the school department, which has helped us a lot on how to engage our school community. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of our parade. The Springfield Puerto Rican Parade was founded in 1990, and something that I hold very dear to my heart is the reason why. Why a parade? Well, at times of difficulty, after Hurricane Hugo struck Puerto Rico, a group of community members gathered to think of ways of how to lift up the spirits of the community. They collected funds, food, and clothing to send back to Puerto Rico, and they organized the parade, and also established the raising of the Puerto Rican flag in Springfield. And in times like today that we are gathering thinking about what is happening in Puerto Rico, I think it's amazing that we're going back and gathering to uplift as well. Our current parade committee was established 3 years ago, which is how I came in hand. The Puerto Rican Cultural Center, which most recently had the parade, passed on the baton to us, the next generation, like we're saying. And we
Very
are
nice.
10 gatitos, very young, like I say, but we roar like lions. And we had no blueprint, no document. We inherited debt, like happens to many of us. But we have a passion for our community. We have a great dynamic group. We come from not-for-profit, higher education. We have a city councilor who actually is the son of one of the founders of the parade. And we have an amazing team. From the very early planning of the parade, it was clear to us that we had to engage our youth. And this is why we took several steps to do so. Number 1, every year now we honor youth ambassadors, 2 young people from our community. We ask our teachers, which is how I come in hand, our principals, our guidance counselors to nominate their students. They're best of the best. Those folks who are working in the schools, who are young community leaders, and we honor them every year too. And we also changed the parade day to September, a time after school has started, very specific for this reason, so our schools can participate. Also a time after the parades in the region have already happened, and families are back from vacation. 65% of students in Springfield are Puerto Ricans. We also decided that we were going to waive the fees for schools registered from K to 12. And now we see our administrators and our school department members like partners. And for them, this becomes a way to kick off the school year in September.
Oh, nice.
For students now, they learn about their heritage, their identity. They learn who they are and where they come from. And also, we decided from the beginning that this was a way to unify the community. So we invite students, not just who are Puerto Rican, but who are African American, who are Caucasians, to come and celebrate. Mm-hmm. And we also have every year now our superintendent march in the parade. So this past year, more than 30 schools marched in our parade.
That's awesome.
Hundreds of young people are marching down Main Street where we have our Puerto Rican parade, and it just gives me goosebumps when I see them. We have formed partnerships with our administrations, and a person who has been key in our parade has been our city superintendent, Leah Martinez, who is Puerto Rican. She personally calls the schools who have not registered and asks them, why are you not coming? You have to be there. For our schools, it's a way to highlight their students' talent. So we have dancers, we have schools who perform and they specifically do routines for the parade. We have schools, for example, who embraced our theme last year of the Olympics, and they had students dress up as Olympians. We have a school last year who their theme was going to be trabajadores, and their students dress up as different professionals. We had a school last year who decided that after the parade, they were going to have their own event. So they used a park, and the families gathered there. So it has been amazing for our school committee. And we also asked them to volunteer. We have some schools whose students come volunteer to the other parade. We also have engaged our higher ed, and we have established key partnerships with them. We have schools like Springfield Community College who now sponsor our parade. We also have Western New England University who march, and we have American International College who sponsor. We had about 5 higher eds participate this past year in the parade. And we also make sure that we promote in our local college stations, and we get those college students also attend. Throughout the year, what do? I specifically keep contact information from our schools of what groups do they have that highlight the Puerto Rican community. For example, we have a school, the High School of Commerce, who has a group that the students do Bomba y Plena. And throughout the year, I check into them. I was just with them 2 weeks ago, and they had a celebration of Puerto Rican Day. And the students danced, and I told them, you did fantastic. Make sure you start practicing for our parade. Mm-hmm. And they were ecstatic to know that we invited them to be in our parade this year. We also keep in contact with local community leaders to make sure that they encourage our students to also participate. And we also invite our schools to local community events, those partnerships like we were speaking this morning. I am in a different board that we do every year a concert for the community, and we give tickets to the students so they come with their families for this event. We have, this year it's called Parranda on Main Street, so it's going to be a parranda with traditional music from Puerto Rico, and we also have a tenor, a opera singer who combines art music and opera. It's fantastic, and our schools come to that. And we also use social media as a key way to highlight our schools. Whenever we have a student, for example, who has been in the newspaper for being a great athlete, what do? We share it on Facebook and Twitter, and we put as hashtag Orgullo Boricua, and it makes them feel so proud of who they are. And this is some key aspects of what we do, and thank you very much.
Muy bien. Good. And very good. And again, we'll open up to questions and answers after all the panelists have spoken. So now, another 4 minutes or 5 minutes or so from Ingrid Figueroa from Oceola County Puerto Rican Parade in Florida.
Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you, and this has been a growing and learning experience since this morning, so thank you so much for having us here. It's really important for me to give you a little bit of background how we emerged. We had a man, Roberto Martinez, who was a dreamer, someone who had a passion for our culture, and he was our pharmacist and in a Winn-Dixie store, and he always used to say to us, one day I'm going to have a center, and I want you girls, meaning my sister, my mom, my husband, everyone to be involved, because we're going to have a great cultural center in Florida. It was exciting times. His dream came true. Mr. Roberto Martinez opened a Centro Cultural Puertorriqueño, and someone came with the idea of developing, what about, we have never had a parade in Oceola County. What about if we do this? So, interesting enough, this is a nonprofit organization. We are all 100% volunteers. We make $0, but the level of commitment of this group is amazing. So in 2009, we opened a Centro Cultural, and our illusion and vision was for all of us to be able to teach bomba y plena, to teach drama. We had someone that was teaching guitar, cuatro, and it was like an experience that it was a unique experience. Living in, obviously, I came from New York City, going back to Florida, and interesting enough, when I moved to Florida, I was lost because the cultural component was missing there. And moving from New York and going to Florida, it was like taking a Valium.
It's a shock.
It's like taking a Valium. Everything is so different out there. So it was kind of interesting enough because it was kind of like sad that we didn't have that cultural exposure. I grew up with a single mom who taught me about education, about culture. I mean, I remember being 12-year-old, my mother used to send a taxi to us to go and see the Philharmonica of Puerto Rico and concerts and drama and all that. So I was raised with embracing my culture and, again, feeling so proud of being Puerto Rican, because there's nothing else that I love more than being Puerto Rican. That is, I am so honored and so happy that I was raised in an island that it was so beautiful, and it gave me so much in terms of culture and strength. But anyway, so someone came with the idea of developing, let's do a parade. So we all got really involved in doing this parade. We had so many challenges. Interesting enough, Oceola County is a very, very, very primitive town. Very tight. I think this is the first time that I experienced some prejudice and racism. I grew up with the mentality that I'm not going to blame everything because I am Boricua. I'm sorry. There's things happen because they had to happen. But unfortunately, living in Oceola County, and not only that, I was a professional. It was not that, I'm sorry, not ghetto people. We were all a group of professional people who have committed to do this amazing parade. So, one of the challenges that we experienced is that we were all the new kids in the block, and people were looking at us and saying, "You really want to have a parade here? Are you kidding me?" Not only that, we had no funding at all. We had $0. So you asked me how we did this and how we continue to do this is amazing to us. And we're so proud of the work that we have done. The first year that we decided to do this parade, again, needless to say, we're thinking that we have no dollars. How are we going to create this environment? But not only that we wanted to do a parade, we were a little bit grandiose, and we decided to do a business expo, a health fair, a festival, plus the parade, plus a gala. And when it comes to children, one of the things that we decided to do is that we have our gala, and in our gala we have what is called Premio Borinquen. And these are premios that are provided to people that are unnoticed in the community, but they are heroes, and they are working with the community all the time, but no one knows what they're doing, and they're never recognized. So what we do is that we have the community to really nominate these people that they know that they work in the community, and we have categories for children and adolescents and for adults as well. And to make it more inclusive, we have 2 awards that we are giving to the Hispanic community as leaders that have been able to support us as well. So when we started the first year, we decided to, first of all, we thankful to all the pioneers that decided to do all this, because if the Puerto Rican National Day Parade wasn't here, we would never be able to do this. These are our pioneers, and we're grateful for all the work that they have done. So the first year we decided to dedicate the parade to the Borinqueneers, and you know how controversial that was, but obviously we were so blessed. No one was really opposed to having them there. It was such an honor to have these veterans to participate in our parade, walking with so much pride and feeling that this is the first time that we are recognized. So it was very emotional for all of us. We also had, for the first time, the Philharmonica, the Arturo Somano in our event. which really, if you see me, since the minute they walked in the rehearsal, I was crying because it brought me back to my youth. I used to go every Sunday to see them. So what a pleasure to have culture in Oceola County. They have never been there. So it was very emotional to see them. Our first event, it was a tremendous success. We were so happy. Interesting enough, the Oceola Sheriff Department sends their mountain police because they thought that we were going to kill each other in that event, and I'm like, you have 30 horses with officers, what's going on? What are you expecting to have? So interesting enough, we have no incidents of any kind.
That's great.
The captain called me and he said, I need to talk to you, Ingrid, and I'm shaking because I'm saying, oh my God, please don't tell me that one of our Puerto Rican people just went crazy. And this is his own words. I'm not using this in any derogative way. He says, I only had a problem, and he was one of my white boys, and he was arrested. So we were like, oh my God, thank you, Lord, thank you. To establish ourselves in Oceola County has been a challenge. We are in our 7th year. The second year, we decided to dedicate our parade to Joseph Acaba, the astronaut who's a descendant from Puerto Rican descent. And, again, very emotional time because even though that he wasn't there, he sent us a message from the mission that he was out there in space. So that was awesome. Emotional for us to see him in space saying, oh, I am Boricua and I love you guys and thank you so much and I'm proud of my bandera. I mean, it was totally amazing. And, for us, we were like, we're the little, the new kids in the block. For us to get this achievement, for us, we think very highly of this committee who has put everything together. And they work every single day. We don't plan our parade 3 months before. We plan our parade like we finish our parade this year. And we start again. We take a little break because, we all very exhausted and, we all have professional lives. I happen to be the director of children's mental health for 19 counties with the state of Florida. So that's a little bit challenging, but all our voluntary work, we are very committed. Our 3rd year, because we continue to focus on culture, we dedicated our parade to Areito, el Ballet Folclórico de Puerto Rico. If you guys don't know him, they have been National Ballet of Puerto Rico. And do you think Puerto Rico would honor them? No, they came to us to celebrate the 45 years of being together in this group. And again, even though that we're volunteers and we don't make a penny out of this, it's for us, it's so nice to see people emotionally crying, saying thank you so much for what you're doing to promote our culture, to be able to support and show new generations, because, the reality is we need to pass the baton to this new generation. And I think it was really interesting that Lorraine mentioned that we need to embrace what these kids are doing in order for us to bring them into what this new generation that we need to bring them so they can feel as proud as we feel being part of this, this event. Our 4th parade, we dedicated it to Andy Montañez. He's an icon from Puerto Rico, and it was, again, very special. The last 2 years, we have dedicated it to different municipalities in Puerto Rico. Right. We have Ponce, Dorado, Barceloneta, and Mayagüez. And, Ponce is Ponce, like what they say, but I'm from San Juan, I'm sorry. That doesn't count, okay? We let them pretend that they're Ponce, but the reality is that San Juan is San Juan. And then the other thing, last year we dedicated, because, in Puerto Rico, it's not about parades. In Puerto Rico, it's about carnivals and festivals. So, every weekend they have a festival out there. So last year we dedicated it to the Carnavales of Puerto Rico. There's 78 carnivals in Puerto Rico. We have ambassadors in Puerto Rico that are representing our beautiful events. This year it was a little bit of a challenge because we had next to us the President of the United States came to visit to the next building that we were in. And of course, even though that he passed by our stage, it created a little bit of tension because, Secret Service took over. And who says no to the president that you can't go by that, by that backstage? But anyway, we continue to grow. We have delegations from Puerto Rico. We have become ambassadors and liaisons from Puerto Rico. We not only do the parade, we're very much involved. Of course, my background is in social work. So I believe in in supporting our community, because even though that we have a crisis in Puerto Rico, we have a crisis in Florida as well. When we go and misinform people about the benefits of being in Florida, and they come and they're homeless and they can't find jobs. So for us, it's very important to do that component of the social part and to assist families in what they need, resources. I'm done? Okay. All right, so come and visit us, and like I said, I'm very proud. I hope that this continues to be a support for each other. And challenges, we have a lot of challenges, We go every day with something different, but we're here and we'll continue to do our parade. So thank you so much.
No, thank you.
I know you're rushing me because you want Coquito.
No, I'm trying.
That's the only reason you're rushing me.
No, very good. Just very quickly, where is Oceola County in Florida?
It's in Kissimmee.
Kissimmee.
It's in Kissimmee next
Okay.
to Orlando.
Anyone doesn't
Orlando,
know.
Ponciano.
Orlando
It's like
area.
Disneyland.
Very,
place.
very nice. Okay, and now we have, again, congratulations, a good job. Now we have Debbie Quiñones, Coquito Matters.
Coquito
on the
Masters.
table.
So Coquito Masters
Masters.
it's celebrating its 15th year. It started in my house as a joke because I didn't have Coquito. So I invited my friends over and we had a contest in my house so that I could stay with the Coquito after they left. And the thing is that I went to Cordon Bleu Cooking School. I went to Lehman College for restaurant management and nutrition. And what I did was we applied culinary excellence to like a wine tasting concept. And the winner walked through the living room going like this. It was through my living room. And then, it grew to a senior citizen center and some local restaurants. And then in 2005, the Museo de Barrio graciously invited us to come and do the contest there. And the contest is basically a celebration of Coquito. And I have to say that the contest back then is not the same contest that it is now, because back then it was really a free for all. Basically we put the Coquito on the table, and people just kind of came up and drank, and even though they had letters to vote on, you kind of knew who was doing what, and we had people lobbying and stuff like that. So every year at the Museo, I kind of learned a lesson. So ultimately, in 2008. What happened was the Museo de Barrio took out an article in Time Out New York, which is a very it's like a magazine that talks about where to go in New York, and the title was "Where to Meet Sexy Latino Singles," right?
Oh, I'm sorry, honey.
So 670 people showed up. 670 people showed up, and we had 48 Coquitos that showed up to compete. It was a madhouse. It was a madhouse, but it was great. They called the police. They came. They shut the building down. It was great for our reputation because it's like we had the party that they called the police. And then González, who was the contact at the time, suggested that maybe we should think about going into the community, having mini contests in the community, and then coming back to the Museo to have the finals. Right, so at the same time, I also realized that I had to change the name, because while we are Coquito Masters, before it was Coquito Tasting Contest, which was kind of misleading, because then it's kind of like, let me see how many Coquitos I can taste. And it was really a lot of fun because it creates, Coquito Masters concept now creates an opportunity to celebrate the community at the local level. It's an economic development engine where you can work with restaurants to host the Coquito contest for you. And it's not a long contest. It's only like 25, 30 minutes of tasting. And you only get to taste half of this. You're not taking a shot. We also learned not to have more than 10 Coquitos in one shot, because that's a lot.
It's a lot of
Confusion.
So
Borracho.
it's an economic development tool. It's also a culinary preservation concept, where ultimately, when we talk about preserving Puerto Rican culture, a lot of people talk about art, a lot of people talk about different issues, but the concept of culinary preservation is something that we need to focus on as well, because what I found was that people kind of score Coquito, their Coquito hookup, right? They have that one person that you have in your family or whatever. But when that person dies, you find that you're kind of left without. So we created Coquito Masters qualifiers, where we go around the city and we have qualifiers in neighborhood bars, senior citizen centers, churches, anywhere that would have us. And the contestants bring the bottle, and we put it all in one picture. It's a blind taste test. All of the same pictures. They have letters on them, and then you taste. And then you rate from 1 to 10 on color, consistency, and kick. We don't ask for the recipes because you just don't ask people for their recipe. Right? You don't. And then what happens is the person with the highest score gets the title of Coquito Masters and moves on to the finals for the title of New York State Coquito Master. We have gone, and I'm so grateful because we have gone to Boston, we've gone to Connecticut, we've gone to Florida. Was our first year last year. We were in Florida.
Oh, that's right.
So we have we have a Coquito Masters chapter, because now they're chapters in different parts of the country. We have friends in Hawaii that have done the Coquito Masters contest in Hawaii. Because the bottom line is that it's a celebratory issue. It just, you say Coquito, people smile, right? But the other thing is that we also, like, I created the International Coquito Tasting Federation. And as a play on Spain, we decided to just have a coat of arms, which is cinnamon sticks, coconut, vanilla, and rum with a flag on it. But what was interesting, that somebody told me that you should take the flag off because you may not invite other Latinos. And I was like, I'm sorry, the flag is staying.
That's
Bottom
right.
line, because
It's
it's Coquito is indigenously Puerto Rican.
That's right.
But the other thing that we found was that it opened up a dialogue about, what is Coquito? What does it represent? If you look at the ingredients, they do represent different issues in terms of the migratory patterns of the ingredients. What does it really represent? It represents imperialism and colonialism, because you have cinnamon from India, you have nutmeg, you have coconut, which came from China. You have all these different ingredients that were transported to our island, right? And how did we kind of react to that situation? Coquito represents the resiliency of the community. And it represents a response to that particular issue of imperialism and colonialism. And then it opened up another dialogue about, what about the state of Puerto Rico and agriculture? What's happening there? How do we even get our food? How things come in, the Jones Acts and all these things that come, that impact this one little bottle, right? So what started out as a goof in my house has now opened up a discussion about social change. It talks about the state of food. It talks about the state of Puerto Rico. It talks about, the reality of imperialism, and it talks about the responsibility of culinary preservation in a way that now translates, because now we're embarking on a second phase, because I've been doing this for 15 years out of love. Oceola with my partner, we go all over the place, and I rely on my friends and family, Coquito friends and family, because over the course of 15 years, there's been about 10,000 people that have participated. There's been about 300 Coquitos that have participated. And the ultimate goal is to create an informed Coquito consumer, and to support Coquito entrepreneurship. Because I will tell you that I have had really, really good Coquito, and I have had really, really, really bad Coquito. And it's an issue of education, because this one gentleman came up to me. He says, I got Coquito for you, because they call me the Coquito Contessa. And it's like, mira, I got Coquito. And it was leche condensada with a shot of rum.
Ooh.
No, with just a shot of rum poured into it.
Oh my God, diabetic attack.
Yeah, so then, the other thing was that we had to embrace the evolution of our culinary experience and the evolution of the Puerto Rican diaspora, to the point that now we have a fusion flavor category.
Wow.
So we have traditional, and then we have the fusion flavor, which is chocolate, pistachio, and some people get like really like, no, don't do that. But you have to embrace that because you talk about youth and you talk about, how we expand. So I'm really looking forward to, and this is really weird, but it's a salmon coquito. I'm supposed to meet with her like next week. She does a salmon coquito. I don't know. But, we had one last night at the Bronx Distillery. We have one tonight, if you have nothing to do tonight, at Jimmy's 43 East 7th Street. But the other thing is that it opened up a dialogue about the importance of working with young people and doing coquito, teaching them about coquito, but a virgin coquito. So we have a new partnership with a parents association and a school that now wants us to bring this this entire dialogue to young people and teach them how to make a virgin coquito. And then, the parents are going to probably add the rum after. But, it talks about how I know that there's Puerto Ricans everywhere in the world. And I know that we will have chapters of the Coquito Masters all over the place because Coquito is something that represents resiliency, it represents pride, and it represents the importance of culinary preservation. So that's why I have a sample here of a champion coquito who has won. And, we can crack it open after. But,
Or now.
Or now.
But the idea is that I have to say that, in terms of challenges, I got some criticism from some friends and family because they're like, oh my God, you're selling out coquito. Why are you, why are you putting it out there? Because they're going to take it from us. And I was like, no, they're not. No, they're not. They're not going to take it from us. And in fact, we're going to open up more dialogues. I had one artist that wanted to do a coquito installation with coconuts, Diogenes, and he was like, I want to do a coquito, installation. So then it opens up an opportunity to work with schools. Our coquito season is from October 16th to January 17th. We look to go to Florida. The second Friday in January is going to be like our annual event to maybe kick off the San Bautista thing.
Yeah,
So and we're looking to go to wherever you're at. We can go to you. We can go to you. We go to New Jersey. We go. I mean, and I think, it opens up a wonderful opportunity for dialogue. The event can actually be a way for you to solicit new relationships with people. Let's say you want to get together with, an elected official. In fact, elected officials have participated in the past, which has always been fun because they sometimes they submit their bottles and they don't want you to say who they are, so they have a representative, kind of representing them. And so I think that what Coquito represents is a continuum of a lot of different dialogues. It's a product of resiliency, and it represents our wonderful, wonderful culture.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very interesting. Yes. There was a lot in there, just in this little bottle of coquito.
And that's
Yeah,
it.
no,
So what is it that
very
what is it that we're
significant.
looking for? So you look.
Pass it on now.
I'm gonna do that.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
Okay, now we'll open
Start
up
with
the
the
floor
panelists,
to questions. Again, the ultimate theme of this discussion and this workshop is the cultural celebration of our heritage across the country, and we've seen some representatives here, as a year-round activity, and also how that relates to the youth and education in our schools. Okay, so a question.
Yes. My question is based upon my frame of reference here in New York City. Being one of the first licensed, certified bilingual clinicians in the Department of Education back in the 70s through the mid-80s, when we had some sort of a semblance of bilingual education, through two very, very progressive chancellors, Anthony Alvarado and I believe Joseph Rodriguez, who I think went to Florida, or he came from Florida. To what extent are these activities inculcated into bilingual programs within your elementary and secondary schools? I know here in New York City, we have seen bilingual education totally destroyed by the racist, ultra-conservative United Federation of Teachers, a very strong municipal union, the educational bureaucracy at what was 110 Livingston Street, which now is Chambers Street, and several mayors who, of course, were very racist, and I hope one does not become the Attorney General of the United States. Do you have the bilingual program in these areas, and are the bilingual programs of a transitional type, the maintenance type, where they continue beyond the 10th grade level, where a student really comes out with a sense of cultural identity and linguistic literacy?
Could you address that as regards Springfield, Massachusetts?
My answer is it being recorded. I guess I have to keep it politically correct because I work in the school department, but no, we are not. And that is my next step. I was already thinking this week, I have to sit down with our person who leads bilingual education in our district, and how do we integrate it, and specifically the history. Our students come to our schools without knowing where do they come from, who they are, and that leads to identity crisis. You know, my husband went to schools in Springfield, and he has no idea, from the schools he learned after. He had to do it himself. Whereas I come from Puerto Rico, and I came here and I speak about our heritage, Tainos, and people look at me like, what? I speak about what's happening in Puerto Rico, and people have no idea. Thanks to Centro, now they have a little more of what's happening, They don't read our newspapers, they don't know what's happening, whereas every single day I'm reading it, So yes, that needs to happen. Our students are coming from the island, without not knowing English very well, of course. And they come to the schools and they're being told you cannot speak Spanish anymore. And what do they do now? They're being told, you go home and you cannot even speak your language, So that's definitely what we have to work in.
And I can tell you, in the state of Florida, I was the first bilingual social worker in a county that was huge. We have 62% of the population in Oceola County, they are Hispanic, 42% are Puerto Rican. And I can tell you that support, that commitment, that motivation for these students to be in cultural activities is a challenge. There are some programs that obviously that we support. We go and support the kids that do cultural programs, and we try to get involved in that. But the reality is a no. And like she said, the kids that are moving to Florida, they don't have the understanding. They're going to a culture shock because it's so different, the environment. When I was a school social worker, you were 16 and you were not attending school, the best advice was like, you need to quit because why are you wasting your time? And I will say, no, why would you quit? You have so many opportunities that you can continue. But we need to embrace our youth with their baggage that they come. I do believe I had someone who yelled at me one time because this kid didn't know who Rafael Hernandez was. And for me, if you know Preciosa and Mark Anthony sings it and you can make that affiliation, and then I can look at you and say, Papito, that's great, but he was not the person who wrote that song. But you have to embrace that from them, because if not, you're going to lose our youth. And, my husband here is the president of the Central Cultural, and our dream is to have a center that we can really make sure that we look and tailor at the needs of the Hispanic community, not only the Puerto Ricans. We're all struggling as a community. And it's a big challenge.
I'd like to also
please.
respond.
Please
So
do.
while I was serving, I caught part of it. So
Okay.
Can we get seconds? No.
yes, no, this is for us. So the thing is,
nice?
I think that in terms of the schools and what's happening with the schools. First, let me understand what was framed. What was it that he
Right. Could you just very quickly just repeat the question?
To what extent, for example, we had bilingual education programs here in the city under two very, very progressive chancellors. Anthony Alvarado, of course, my personal opinion, there's nothing they can do to being 75 years old unless they delay my pension and Social Security, was framed by the United Federation of Teachers, which has always been very, very anti-bilingual, bicultural education.
Well, yeah.
Under Albert Shanker, Sandy Feldman, so forth. And I worked for the UFT, and I saw it as a Latino, as a Puerto Rican with a doctorate, as one of the few people who worked at that level.
Right.
and of course, Joseph Fernandez. That's
Joseph
his
Fernandez.
name.
Well, I think, well, so,
So the question, again,
so
The
now,
question is, to what extent are there bilingual programs within these areas to promote some of the things that we're talking about? So we're actually promoting a sense of autonomy and a positive self-awareness.
okay,
among
so,
our kids.
so, taking off my Coquito Masters thing, hat, the whatever, this is the dashiki, shankiki, whatever she calls it, I don't know. But, so I'm also a longtime advocate here at East Harlem. And one of the things that I believe it can be a vehicle for absolute change is advocacy. And I think that if there was an opportunity for young people to channel that rage and channel that whole thing, that maybe they can, if we have training, advocacy training camps or drills for skills for young people, recruitment opportunities to get them to be more advocates on those issues, then that could be an opportunity to kind of change that system and create the opportunity for that. Because I think that, systems feel like, oh, if they don't hear anything, they're not going to respond. I think that advocacy is the key to ensure the practice of change. I think that also, evaluation of that advocacy. Because I think that sometimes people get comfortable and then they don't they kind of say, oh, we did such a good job, and then they don't go back.
Right.
So I think that that advocacy is a key to ensure. And then teaching parents advocacy, because, East Harlem, we have a large, we have a high concentration of Mexicans, and one of the things that we find is that they're very, they're very much involved with advocacy,
But,
the Mexican community.
the Mexican community.
but adding to that, I think it continues to be a level of education that needs to be done in general.
Yeah.
Because I can advocate and I can do, but if you, let's say for instance, an example that I have when we brought the Filarmónica de Arturo Somano, which is the greatest musicians in Puerto Rico, I had someone who looked at me straight in my face and said, oh my God, I had no idea that you have beautiful music like this. And I look at that person and I said, are you insulting me or are you giving me a compliment? Because and it was the mayor of Oceola County.
Wow.
And so this is the component that I think it needs to be, the education, it needs to be.
Education and advocacy.
Together. In
Partnership. It has to be a partnership.
Bloomberg created a position, the parent coordinator within the schools, that could have been the broker within the young people,
Right.
the parents. But unfortunately, that position has been so reduced to a
All they do is pass out flyers.
non-position
It's a
within
non-position,
schools.
yeah.
And as I said, we've seen the Aspira consent decree thrown out the window. We've seen Title VII.
It's been reinstituted.
It's been watered down a lot, and the UFT has had a lot to do with it, as well as the DOE. Also, the fact that two very progressive chancellors were thrown out, and the fact that we're bilingual, now it's called dual language. And of course, in those days, bilingual teacher was important to be a teacher, and we had numerous scholarships. And certainly, as I said, as one of the first clinicians,
Well, we have to
I
go
took
back to
advantage
that.
of the scholarships, working as bilingual guidance counselor, bilingual social, doctoral level psychologist, where we worked with the community.
Specific
All that now
recommendations.
has been totally eliminated, where the clinicians have been turned over, at least in New York City, unto the supervision of the building principal, who may or may not be an advocate and a supporter of bilingual education, where many times he or she is also a Puerto Rican suffering from self-hatred under the formula of Franz Fanon.
Okay.
Wow.
So very interesting points, but we have to move on because time is ticking away. Ultimately, I will open up the floor again for other questions, but ultimately we do need to address the question, what can El Centro here at Hunter and the National Puerto Rican Day Parade and other participants do with regards to, again, the overall theme of this particular panel, the celebration of heritage across the country, year-round, and as it relates to the outreach to education in schools. Okay, so ultimately we have to address that question as well. So other questions?
Okay, I had a question for Lorraine.
Welcome, Lorraine, yes.
I know because with me with the cane, I'm not going to be able to, this is my only time to speak with you.
And just in case anyone does not know, but Lorraine, could you just introduce yourself, please?
Okay, I know you were talking about the first Puerto Rican Day Parade, and I know you had mentioned Ramon Velez. but the people that were responsible for the first Puerto Rican Day Parade were people like Roberto Hedida Valentin and the Congreso de Pueblos. Okay, so that I was kind of like thrown off that you only mentioned one person's name when he came on later on to be in the
Because
chair.
Genera Valentin, who I have the greatest admiration for and respect for, had the Hispanic parade. The Puerto Rican Day Parade was started by
Sal.
So I mean, history is important to report.
Okay, 'cause my reading, I kind of got it differently.
Right, but we're
That
not
he was
giving the date
responsible, that they submitted the charter in Albany the year before in '53.
Genera Valentin was the one
Let
who
me go to
originally
pen. I'm gonna
initiated
write some stuff in
the
there.
concept of the parade. You're absolutely right.
That's good stuff.
And history is important, and it's important to correct it. The person who created the National Puerto Rican Day Parade as we know it now, right, is number one. And that is in no way denigrating or denigrating or undermining or not respecting Helena Valentin's great contribution, right?
Okay, good, very good.
But the
Please.
theme I would hope that we get out of today is that each one of these iconic institutions, whichever ones you are and whichever way you represent, right? Whether it's a festival, whether it's a parade, whether it's a Coquito demonstration contest, whatever it is that we have, that we can start using each one of these in our own right, with no one losing anything, but gaining, coming up with some common themes.
Right.
Whatever we agree to for a year, for whatever that period is, that we can use those platforms as a way, because our people are gonna celebrate and they're gonna come to the festivals regardless. But that we use it as a way to constantly educate, but now more than ever, to come up with some common themes so that when I'm in New Jersey, when I'm in Connecticut, when I'm in Philly, I hear that powerful message of Puerto Ricans, and everyone hears it, you know, and so that's what we carry.
That's a great point, and I think addressing that point, going directly to that point, in order to get to that level, I think that we need to further develop the networking and working together and communicating with one another. I know in the past we would have a conference and we try to bring all together at the table, you know, be it New York, Camden, Philadelphia, Massachusetts. So in order to get to that point, we think we have to do better at that networking.
I make a commitment that we will take the leadership. No, I mean, we'll take the lead role, not the leadership.
Right.
Because there are 1,001 leaders in this place. I know never usurp leadership. But that we will take the responsibility and accountability for calling together a teleconference first, right? Because there's, you know, and this time, and you know, all the resources that we have, we need to devote to our respective entities.
Right.
But, and that we will then, if people commit to that we will do that quarterly to keep each other abreast of what we're doing and what some of those themes are. That does not mean that we have to have unanimity or agreement. You know, like some parades are not gonna wanna do something for ASTA. Some parades might not wanna do LGBT. Whatever it is, you know, and everybody, believe me, it's a hard thing to live into. But we will take the responsibility for doing that kind of a campaign, right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Right, and we're gonna do the first one right after the elevator.
Yeah,
Okay,
just
good.
to fall apart because sometimes if you always talking,
I gotta give you my number.
the words are taken, blown away in the air, because we went to summit about 4 years ago. That's where we brought up the unity. After that, everybody went their own way.
Yeah.
917
They want to get money.
917 287.
It's not begun. They never invite us
4964.
anymore
Yeah.
for what we say.
6'4"?
Yeah,
Actually,
And
it's
Debbie,
become
right?
Debbie.
the
To
word.
me, I'm that same way. It's about what's that message and what we're gonna do.
And-
And it's not changing your parade, changing your festival.
Right, and one of the key things is that one of the resources that we have available to us is here at Hunter College. And Dr. Melendez, he's been doing an excellent job at bringing us all together
Yeah,
and sitting us down at the table. So that's a good thing. Another point in the back.
As a trustee of CUNY, I want to be real clear. The Centro is a convener and Center is not the doer.
Correct.
You're the festival,
Correct.
You're the festival.
Right, they're the catalyst.
They're a catalyst and a
Right.
convener.
And which is a good thing, and it's not much needed, and much
So you could
appreciated.
develop some
Yes,
tools.
please.
One, to the topic of outreach to schools. Some time ago in 1996, immediately after the creation of the National Puerto Rican Day Parade, of which Ramon Vélez was its first president. And to the point of the gentleman, there were other people, Angelina and Chulito Caballero, and Luisa Quintero, Damaso, and all those other people who back in the 50s created the movement of the Puerto Rican community to grow. I just want to suggest to the panel members and the other members who are here, back in 1996, 97, we created a program in conjunction with the UFT, in conjunction with what at those days was the New York City Board of Education. And we created a program called the 1,000 Children's Project. And the purpose of that program was to create the next generation of Puerto Rican leadership within the school system, utilizing the school system as the catalyst for that. Curriculums were approved by the New York City Board of Education in those days. Mentoring was put in place, and for many, many years, I don't know what the current group of the National Puerto Rican Day Parade is doing about this, but for many years, we had a lot of graduates. We were able to bring into the mix a lot of scholarship money for those kids that were part of the 1,000 Children program that was developed back in 96, 97. So you may want to look at something similar when you work in conjunction with the school system in your local communities. Identify young Puerto Rican children. We have kids from the 3rd grade to the 6th grade that we were identified as part of that 1,000 Children's program. Within 5 years or so, we had kids that were graduating, going into colleges. But during that whole time, we had a very limited staff of people, plus a lot of mentors that were working with the school system in guiding them through the process. The primary goal at that time, which can be changed, but the board at that time decided, was to create the next generation of Puerto Rican leaders, regardless of their academic knowledge, academic prowess. We were looking for leaders.
Oh, I can't
We
remember.
were not looking for academics.
19-something.
And those kids were part of that process. So that's something that you may want to take back to your communities as a thought, to get into the school system, to get the school system to become responsive to our children's needs, especially those where bilingual education is no longer an issue, or is not recognized as something that should be happening.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, so, you know, this we're just going back in the loop because the Museo de Barrio was founded as part of a curriculum for District 4. You know, that was how it started. It was called the Museo de Barrio, and it was a curriculum that was promoting Puerto Rican identity and Puerto Rican history in District 4. You know, here, because this is District 4. And we have Ana Chireno from the Museo de Barrio right there. Hey, Ana.
Welcome.
So, you know, it's like things cycle and they happen over a period of time and they come back. And I think that, you know, we specifically have to look at developing recommendations. We have to come out with something today, right?
Yes.
So I'm thinking about, you know, like, how is it that we can call for the integration of Puerto Rican cultural identity in different school districts in our own, go back. But we have to create the tools and maybe do an assessment of go back to our own space and find out what's currently happening in those schools now, but maybe using the same tool of assessment so that then we can kind of create one mass report, and then maybe call for an advocacy action in response to that. You know, because I'm kind of like a systems thinker, so I think that, you know, that then ultimately create an annual advocacy event that occurs the same time but in different places. You know, calling for specific recommendations that we have found out of this process. So that we embark on a process today that we will go back, we will review, recommend, and then create an advocacy action that's then evaluated. that we can come back and say, as a result of this, this is what has happened.
And a big part of that, the challenge as it relates to that, is that each of our communities are so different and diverse.
Right,
yes.
right.
Issues that may be really relevant here in New York City
Right.
may not apply to Camden, New Jersey,
Right, but
or
the tool,
Springfield.
but the tool that we use, if we all use the same tool, we can capture that information, so that then we can see the differences and then see what comes across. Maybe is the same or something that we can connect, and then in our same advocacy event, go back and advocate for that particular issue that's customized, but then we ultimately all change the system collectively.
I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
That's already in place. It's the National Puerto Rican Agenda.
Okay,
And
but
it's just starting though.
Okay.
It was a little while.
Okay, because I was
just starting. Yes.
Good, please.
And the other thing that you need to know.
I'm sorry, the gentleman in the back, I'm sorry. See, senior.
Living here in this home, I was wondering if this would be a right place to bring out the fact that I've seen a drop in attendance in the Puerto Rican Day Parade here in New York, and then I went to Newark to check it out this past parade, and it was even like a ghost town when you walked up that avenue, to the end of the parade. So what can we attribute that to? I know that in New York City they cut it back down from 86th Street to 70-something Street.
79th.
The police barricades don't help either, but everything is so, down in attendance.
So
Please.
that's not accurate. So Puerto Rican Day
You know what I'm
attendance
talking
has
about? I'm just gonna write this up.
not diminished, all right? And a lot more people, but on the street, it hasn't. It's been consistently about 1 million, 1,000,001 people every year since we've been there, right? Prior to that, it used to be on the streets about maybe 1.6 million historically. We also have had a change and shift in population, right? So people have gone to Westchester, they go to other areas. What we have had, though, is that we've noticed that there's been an uptake in the viewership on television.
That's true, and social media, right?
And there's been an uptake in the social media.
Yeah.
So the viewership is greater than it's ever been. But the actual presence on Fifth Avenue, and you have to understand that all the challenges the parade has gone through. Not so long ago, under the Bloomberg administration, the speeds were boarded. So you have to look at all of those challenges.
And Madison
that we've
Avenue was
gone
closed
through,
off.
And then there was all of this controversy about it being unsafe, which was, which was one incident. It wasn't even on the parade. It was in the park. But
We're still.
and that's what you constantly are coming up against. And each one of you knows that. You come up against this false narrative. What is it that we always have to correct the information and not perpetuate false narratives? The false narrative is that the viewership is lower, people are afraid to go, population shifts have an impact.
And that's a big factor, sure. And that affects our communities with the population shifts as relates to Puerto Rican community and then other Latinos who are not Puerto Rican, Dominicans, Central Americans, Mexicans. Now they live amongst us in our communities, and maybe they don't feel as strongly as celebrating the Puerto Rican parade as we do, right? But that's a factor. Those are factors. Yes. How we're doing with time?
1:30.
Okay, very good. All right, so we have about 5 minutes. I would like to just go again across the board with the panel. Any closing remarks? Please.
I am excited about what she just said. Creating a network. For a while she left, but we have been doing that. We have been using their parade as a framework for every area. Even from our liability forms, we look at what have they been doing. Who are they honoring this year? What is the theme? We are starting now to do scholarships. We are going to go back to New York and see how are they doing it, because it's already working. So why reinvent the wheel when they already have it running? And I am excited to work together and to collaborate so that our community feels more proud every year of who we are. And it's not just for one day. I think that's what we hear. And we believe that Puerto Rican parades or festivals is not one thing that ends there. It translates back to when people go back to work, they feel a little more proud, they feel a little more proud for their families, and it transfers to the years and years to come. So thank you for being here. Palante.
I just hope that we continue to work together as a team. I think that there's so much division among all of us, and I think that with this energy that we have and that we can move forward, create an amazing network for all of us to support one another, and also to be able to develop a plan of work, a plan of action. So I think it will be a great idea that we can say in the next conference call, this is the recommendations, these are some of the things that we saw, because like you said, every area is different and we all encounter different things. So we cannot have a unified tool because they're all things different.
I think you could.
But they could be similar.
I think you still could use the
Debbie?
tool.
Debbie?
So I'm a process person and I'm a systems person. So I've just drafted some steps on, next steps in terms of things to consider. From what I've heard, looking, maybe a comprehensive review of existing school systems, maybe, figuring out how to create an advocacy action, and the importance of connecting with cultural institutions in our respective areas, so that then they can kind of work with our own events, and then tie into, in terms of year round, and then ultimately change the world.
Good. One last comment or question.
Sorry, just one last thing, and
Please.
this is something that was being discussed among some people downstairs, but it came to us that we should have a directory of vendors, of Puerto Rican vendors that we could utilize in all our events and festivals and parades. This is something that we actually don't have. So with Noreen saying that she's going to take the lead role, I think that developing a directory where, for example, for my organization, I want to print hats. Okay, I'm going to look for the directory of Puerto Rican vendors, and I'm going to use that vendor for my hats.
Very good idea.
And onward and forward. So I think that that's something, as Edwin had in his presentation about our purchasing power, we need to really think about that and strengthen our own purchasing power by always trying to, recycle that within our community so we can grow.
Share that information. Absolutely. Good idea.
All right, thank you.
Ramon?
No, just,
Okay.
Ms. Santana, I think that if you look at the preamble of the creation of the National Puerto Rican Day Parade as opposed to the New York City Puerto Rican Day Parade, the primary purpose when the national concept was created was to export to other Puerto Rican communities across the country the success of the parade in New York City. So in there is language that alludes to also the scholarship concept. What I described before was the 1,000 Children program that had nothing to do with the scholarship program that the parade has always had.
Right.
Since it was the New York Puerto Rican Day Parade. There's always been a scholarship component. So you need to, in order to grasp the whole concept, you need to also look at the history of the national parade. I know that the San Juan Bautista parade has been a very strong supporter of the national concept all along since its creation in 1995.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And if you want information, coquitomasters at Gmail is my email.
Y ahora para Navidades ya estamos aquí con el Coquito. Thank you so much. Now